Hi, this is Steve Rosen, your intrepid rock and roll storyteller of yore. The interview you're about to listen to with Anthony Kiedis and John Frusciante from the Chili Peppers was done back on April 19th, 1999. The band was just about to release Californication, and they were getting together to do interviews with all the media. So all the guys got together at the Beverly Hills Hotel, the big pink building on Sunset Boulevard, and had bivouacked in the exclusive suites out in the back. So they'd call in a journalist one at a time to sit down with one or two of the guys. And luckily I got paired up with Anthony and John. The relationship between those two guys, or at least what I saw on that day, was pretty cool. There was a real kind of a symbiotic thing going on. You could tell how much, Anthony really needed John and how much John really needed Anthony, in creative ways and I think in emotional ways as well. Anthony needed John to sort of translate his ideas, and John needed a voice to kind of, sing his ideas. So that's what I sensed on that day. I could be entirely wrong, and maybe I don't know a thing, but that's certainly what I saw. I do remember at one point I had likened Anthony's lyrics to kind of like a Jack Kerouac verse. I was a big Kerouac fan, and I knew that Anthony must have been reading a lot of Jack Kerouac, because a lot of his verse had that same Kerouac rhythm to it. So, I said something like, Anthony, hey man, there's a lot of Jack Kerouac in your lyrics or something, and, Anthony kind of looks over at John and beams like this big grin saying, see man, see John, they get it, man, they understand what I'm trying to do here. And John just kind of smiled back. So it was a good day. These guys were both in high spirits, and why not? The Peppers were kind of on top of the world at that point. So sit back, have a beer, or a soft drink, or a cup of coffee, hang out for a little bit, and take a listen to Anthony Kiedis and John Frusciante talking about life back in 1999. Peace, boys.
Hard Day's Life? Well, I love the movie very much.
Right.
I don't have the record. As a matter of fact, I only have 3 Beatles records.
Yeah, I know you have the White Album because I saw that in your
Yeah, I really don't have a big Beatles collection right now, but I've gone through like 4 or 5 record collections in the last few years. So.
Really?
Well, not record, CD collections. My records are pretty much the same except for certain ones got burned in the fire. But Hard Day's Night, I love the movie so much, and I've watched the movie a lot in the last few years. Me and Tony used to watch it constantly.
What about John Lennon? You have John Lennon in your collection?
Yeah, I have pretty big. All my John Lennon records are still there.
You listen to them?
No, I haven't been listening to him lately, but I know him on.
What do you listen to?
What do I listen
Yeah,
to?
if you had to pull out a CD.
Oh, I pull out CDs all day long. I listen to music,
Yeah.
But I listen to, I don't know, just Beatles. Just there's something I really love, but I haven't been listening to them lately. The main things I listen to are like Fela Kuti, Nigerian performer, I believe mine, and John Coltrane and Ornette Coleman and Eric Dolphy and Black Flag and Minor Threat and David Bowie, and I listen to Cream.
Really?
I listen to all kinds of things, but not the Beatles. I think it's because I know this guy. I met a guy who only listens to the Beatles, and it made me realize that it's just not an influence that I can draw from, that a million people haven't drawn from in a similar way. Whereas like I can listen to things and assimilate it into my own style and my own way of approaching music, and so that I listen to the things that are going to inspire me to that I can put them together in some sort of meld and do something with them in a way that nobody's ever done with them before. Whereas Beatles, people have been inspired by it from every angle, you know. Like, I mean, yeah, I could write a song from listening to the Beatles that no one else has written, but it's just an inspiration. It's an inspiration that so many people have been inspired by. Whereas, like, what I can do with being inspired by Ornette Coleman uh, or by Eric Clapton's playing in Cream, like I can see more how I could do something unique by combining those things. You know?
So would those things manifest themselves on a? I mean, could we hear something of those influences on the new record? I mean, if we listen closely.
No, those I've been putting together since the record was recorded. My playing now is more. My playing at that time, I was more, since I hadn't played guitar and since I hadn't really practiced guitar in about 6 years. I did more what, based on what I've learned about music and about emotions and in the world of spirits in the last few years, that I wasn't practicing guitar, but I was more developing myself inside. Uh, I, I, I was playing the kind of music that I feel that would be like a perfect starting place for somebody who is starting to play an instrument. Only I have the experience of playing the instrument very well for a long time, so I was able to write music where I was taking my inspiration from people who had really original styles, but who had been playing for short periods of time, like Bernard Sumner, the guitarist of Joy Division. Him and Peter Hook, the bass players, they started playing specifically to express something, being inspired by punk rock, and weren't like real competent musicians, but developed original styles right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So I was drawing more of my inspiration from various new wave and punk guitars for this album.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and now my playing is more like a good musician. Then I was trying to play more like somebody who didn't know how, didn't have a lot of confidence on it.
I understand. Well, I mean, I think that's something that the band has always had, that you had guys who play really well, playing really well-crafted songs. I think that's the main thing that bothers me maybe about some of the other things that are around now, is that, one, the players tend not to be very good, and two, the songs maybe aren't very good. Or they might have really good songs, but they're not played very well. I mean,
it's important, you know, it's important. I think being a good musician is a really important thing, and it's something that's kind of, it's gotten lost nowadays. People think because you've had the punk rock aesthetic like emphasized in the world of popular music, then people think that it's not cool to practice your instrument and be a good musician.
Right.
And that's just bullshit, because music is the coolest thing you can do, and to be good at it is, to be good at it doesn't mean that you have to sound like Steve Vai. To be good at it, you can learn from guitar players who aren't like great musicians, but made cool styles, and you can develop a style. You can work all day long playing along with all these people who've developed such colorful. An instrument is a thing to make colorful sounds on. And you can work really hard to be able to do that better and better. Just practicing doesn't mean you learn how to play fast or something. It means like you just learn how to make more expressive sounds on your instrument and learn how to play better with people. Like I just had a vision for this album that, like, the way I can play with Flea is like we have a thing where we make each other sound good with the way we play, and I knew that I could do it not just by drawing from Jimi Hendrix and D. Boone and the people who I was focusing on during Blood Sugar, but I could do it by focusing on people who didn't even have that strong fingers. I could do it by focusing on new wave guitarists, and that's what I did for this album.
Really? Because I mean, you have this amazing ensemble thing that you do with him that doesn't sound like anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like any other guitar player playing with a bass player. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's not like Clapton with Jack Bruce, or it's not like you know what I mean. It's something.
But it is that but it's an extension of that, like his.
Right.
But yeah.
Cool.
But that, like Jack Bruce and Flea are real similar in certain ways.
They are. Like I hear some of it. Not that I hear Jack Bruce in his playing, but I can sense that in what he does. You know.
Yeah, but it's like it's more about like the way we're always the way our parts lace with each other,
Right.
and in the interplay in that way, like intertwining our parts together, and more so than than both of us sort of soloing together.
Right.
You know?
Right. I understand.
Yeah, but like Jack Bruce and Flea are the two bass players who to me have like the sensibilities and the timing, the sense of timing that comes from jazz.
Mm-hmm.
That other bass players, no matter how flashy they are in rock, they don't really have. You know.
I understand. Yeah. So John says that he really hasn't been playing seriously for 6 years. I mean, what have you kind of been? Has music been your main concern these past 3 years since the last record was released? Or I mean,
well, it's mainly been my main concern in the last year. I would say at least a year before we started making this record, I wasn't focused on writing songs or playing music or just thinking in those kind of creative terms. I just wasn't feeling inspired.
To the point where you might not want to do it again at all?
No, not at all. To the point where I missed it, and I was hoping that I'd
see.
be able to find a way to do it again. And as it turned out, the best possible way came around.
So, I mean, how did that happen? I mean, was he your the first choice?
John?
Yes.
No, he was just my Eskimo. John was really the only choice at that point.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't a first choice or a second choice or well. I mean, there other ideas may have crossed our mind, but none of them had any real meaning,
Mm-hmm.
or they didn't last for more than a day or so. But when the idea of playing with John came up, it just it flowed real natural, and I knew that was probably the only way that Flea would want to continue with this band. And
Really?
I think so. Yeah, I think things had kind of lost their productivity for us, and
Flea was about to make a solo record. You know,
yeah,
at that point.
that's right.
And then changed his mind when he said I'd be in the band. You know.
What is it that John brings out in your music or your writing?
Well,
That other guitar players, I mean,
for
going
one
don't
thing,
do.
John is a very good songwriting partner. Because he's incredibly open-minded, and he has a huge, mental and soulful library of ideas and colors to draw from. So, I mean, I don't have that much experience writing with lots and lots of different people, but I know I like writing with John, and that he's very, very intuitive and sensitive and smart about, understanding what I want to express and really putting that together with chords and notes that make perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always liked writing songs with John since the very first time we ever wrote a song.
What was the first song you guys wrote together?
I guess Knock Me Down is the first thing I remember writing with John. But yeah, John makes it easy. John really makes it easy because if you show up with some lyrics and some ideas, by the end of the day you have a song. Because he's got a lot of ideas, and I think he likes writing songs.
Is that how it tends to work? I mean, you'll come in with a lyric and he'll have some chords, or
There is no regular tendency when it comes to writing those kind of songs. Sometimes it does, and every other imaginable way possible when it comes to four guys playing in different sets of two or sets of three, or the more ways possible, the better.
So when you first started thinking about the record, I mean, was there any kind of did you see a path for him, or was it kind of, let's toss some ideas together and see what happens? Did you have any kind of
I didn't really see a path. To me, it was very day by day. First, why don't we just go in and start jamming and see how it feels, and it felt great. and then we just, we know what to do. We've done it before, and we know what kind of, not that we're limited to any specific role on the band, but we know what we all have to bring to make it work. So we just start bringing all that we can and start dumping all these things out and putting them together.
Was it an easy process?
I think one of the easiest songwriting, music playing, record making, rehearsal making processes we've had.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that was? I mean, do you think, and I don't know, was it maybe walking on tiptoes a little around each other, getting comfortable again, or?
No, I didn't see anybody walking on tiptoes.
Yeah, less so than ever. We're all really open with each other right now about, and have been since I've been in the band again, about about how we feel about each other and how we feel about the music, and there, we're constantly reminded every day that we're playing with the perfect combination of people. That like, the kind of guitar playing that I do, I could only do with Flea. And me and Flea could only write the kind of songs we write with Anthony singing. He's the only person who could sing them. And it's just like writing music for this album. We've been constantly reminded of that, and each one of us knows that the other one feels that way. That's a kind of confidence, that we have all the way around now.
It was easy. It was fun. It was exciting. It was pretty amazing to see what kind of progress we were making. After just a very short amount of time of jamming, suddenly we had all these songs that we could play at practice, and we even went out and played some live shows in the middle of the summer just to see what it was like to play them. So there was a lot of early payoff that made us realize, I think, wow, we're really onto something. Let's keep doing this.
Right.
And we didn't stop.
How does a song become a Pepper song? In other words, what is there a certain criteria that thing needs to become a?
Well, we all have to like it. It's kind of a democratic thing. The majority of us definitely have to be in love with it. Sometimes somebody will maybe make a slight sacrifice if they're not as in love with it, if they realize everybody else is madly in love with it. The criteria can actually be rather whimsical, because a song that we're really into playing one week, the next week we might all come to the same realization, like, wait a second, let's just throw the song away. And we did that along the way. So we wrote songs early on that we thought for sure were going to make it on the record, and then one day someone said, fuck this song. And we're like, oh, okay.
Really?
Really.
Interesting.
Really. Even when we got into the studio, we recorded a few songs that we thought were definite keepers, major contenders for the record. And very whimsically just chucked them.
Because you always seem like a band that had a record with 12 songs on it. You kind of came to the party with 12 songs. I just get that feeling. I don't know why. Not that you don't. Not that you couldn't write.
We recorded like 31 songs.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And Blood Sugar had a lot more than 12 songs.
I just use it as a number. Not saying that you don't bring it, but it seems like this band that didn't have like a lot of extra songs.
No, we've always had extra songs.
But it's the opposite.
We had great songs for Blood Sugar that we threw away. One song that was thrown away for Blood Sugar, we used a section out of to throw into one of our new songs.
Really? What was that?
It was a good section, one section of Purple State, the Jimi Hendrix sounding section.
I didn't know that was back then.
Yeah.
What song was it back then?
I don't remember the name of it, but it was, it was definitely part of it.
It wasn't PCP and Brenda, was it?
Oh, yeah. You'd have to ask Flea or Chad. Maybe they might remember. It might have been. That's do, isn't it?
No. No, I remember that though.
Flea's had certain riffs that have like stayed alive for albums and albums. Like the riffs he was showing me right when I joined the band 10 years ago. I know I'll be bringing them up again.
He keeps pulling them out each record. Huh? Yeah, it's funny. The album strikes me, and I may be wrong. It's kind of like this is like the Peppers version of like Hotel California. You know, kind of like looking at L.A. and California and different things going on, and the way they wrote about, you know, people here and the dark side and the
Yeah,
light
it has some
side.
of that, but it has a lot more also. There's a wider variety of emotions and feelings and ideas and stories. It's not just limited to that. There's
Definitely.
a segment of the record that definitely kind of expounds on those themes, but it goes a lot of other places too.
Yeah. So I mean, Scar Tissue is to me has a sort of a under the bridge kind of a feel to it. Would you agree with that?
I never thought of it like that. I didn't, but maybe somebody else did.
What?
Scar Tissue never reminded me of Under the Bridge.
No, it reminds me of Soul to Squeeze. Yeah, but not lyrically. I'm just
No.
The music,
Yeah.
the music of it's very similar because they're both in the same mode and they're similar kind of rhythm, similar chords. You know, but texturally they're very different from each other.
Yeah.
But they both have slide on them.
Yeah, slide right.
And they both go F, C, D minor.
Yeah, right.
I never noticed that, and usually I'm very perceptive.
Yeah, I mean,
he notices those things from a color standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I notice them from a technical standpoint,
Musical,
and they're never
chords.
the same. You know,
Mhm.
like just because I notice a similarity between something technically, if I ask him if he thinks they're similar, and he says no, I know he's right and I'm wrong. You know, because I understand the how far the technical part matters. It matters very little. The color part is much more important.
I understand. So that's the first single.
And when two things are similar color-wise, he knows. You know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I guess it's the first single. It looks that way.
Was that your choice?
Yeah, give me the decision.
Wolfley voted for that. Warner Brothers voted for that.
It's a good song.
Yeah,
Some radio people voted for it, and I don't know. That wasn't really my first choice, but
what would have been your first choice?
Well, I just want to see Californication see the light of day. So long as that one day is a single, I don't care if it's the first or the last.
Mm-hmm.
Other Side, I'd like to see.
Yeah.
As a radio song.
It's kind of a dark thing, isn't it?
Dark.
Lyrically? Yeah, that's my favorite song. You know,
is it really?
Lyrically, it's about that when you die you carry things over with you from this dimension to other dimensions. You know? And it's a real subject that's close to my heart that I see deeply into. The lyrics are really meaningful to me and emotional. I get chills when I hear it.
Right on Time is kind of a funny little tune.
That's my favorite song on the whole album.
Is it really? Yeah. Is that you doing like all the background vocals, the gang stuff?
John Frusciante.
You sing? That's great.
John Frusciante sings a lot of the backup vocals
harmonies
on this record.
That's cool. That's great. Is this a song? I mean, that Flea's bass thing is really cool on Right on Time. Is that something that maybe started with that little?
Well, I would say that the inspiration for drawing those kind of colors from the instrument probably started when I suggested that we learn how to play I Feel Love by Donna Summer.
I knew it was a Donna Summer tune.
Yeah,
I knew it was a disco
and I showed
exactly.
I showed Flea how to play the bass, the synth
cool.
bass thing on the bass, and he could play it, you know, and it's a fun thing to play on guitar because it's hard to play, you know, it really works your wrist.
We actually we played that.
And Flea plays it like a stud, and then Right on Time it came about not directly from that, but we would have never written that if I hadn't. And I would figure, you know, there's some of these Donna Summer bass lines that are hard to play on guitar, so I figure them out for exercises, sort of. And I come to Chad and play them. And at first, Chad would play a disco beat, and he'd sound like he was joking. But finally, by the time we did Right on Time, he plays it serious, and it sounds good, you know, because he's not playing it like he's kidding around, like he's playing it, and it sounds real, and it sounds great next to the punk rock section, you know.
Very cool.
That was a late bloomer in the studio, Right on Time.
Was it?
It was just pure music when there was no vocals or lyrics or anything when we were in the the studio.
Yeah,
Really?
that song came about real quick, you know.
Yeah.
Music came about quick, and one day. Sometimes songs sit around with just a verse and a bridge and no chorus, or just an intro and a
really?
verse, and you gradually add parts to them. That song was those two parts they came at once, you know.
And you are the first writer who has mentioned anything about that song, so I think it's interesting.
Oh, really?
From my memory. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm the only writer who's a guitar player,
Okay.
so I know what you're talking
Okay.
about. Got 5 more minutes here?
Stick it out.
I mean, I honestly, I don't have an interview. Give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes,
Yeah,
dude.
Nice guy.
Dude.
Well, it's not me.
All right. Well, you tell him we gave the photographer.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's me 5 minutes. How much musical input, if any, does Rick Rubin have in terms of suggesting a section or an arrangement thing, or is his thing?
He's more of an arrangement guy. He's more of like a practical aspect to the. That's what he brings. Is he hears songs that he thinks might be too long.
Mm-hmm.
Parts that are too long to him. That to us is perfectly fine like that because we like playing them and we don't mind
Right.
going longer than we're supposed to. And
Mhm.
he'll hear it and go, you know what? Let's balance it out by making this shorter here, that shorter there, and he always insists that I come up with vocals for the bridge. We'll have an instrumental bridge that sounds real full and beautiful, and then he'll say, well, it's not a piece of music till it has vocals on it. So
The harmonies on the album I would have never done if it wasn't for him suggesting that I do them, and making up backing vocal parts for songs. I wasn't thinking of him. He's right, and he's good for, like Anthony says.
Interesting. What about like the strings on Road Tripping or something like that? His idea?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, his idea is it's actually a Chamberlain organ that sounds
It's
like
a Chamberlain.
space. Yeah,
Those are great.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. He tried that concept.
Interesting. Lyrically, sometimes when you're doing your lyric thing, sometimes it's the sound of a lyric as opposed to the content. I mean, do you think about things like that? In other words, rhythmically, the way you do things, it's kind of like a Jack Kerouac.
It's definitely as important as the lyrical definition is the actual, the sonic impact that a word has on you, regardless of its dictionary definition.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I love some of that stuff.
A big part of it. Just like with an instrument, the way you play a note, the whatever you put into that particular note, you can put into a word to have an effect as much as the so-called meaning. And a lot of times I'll try to express it so that people can kind of figure it out for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it a little bit more flexible
Mm-hmm.
for meaning whatever people hear in it. So it can have more than one interpretation.
So what are the plans now for the band? What will tours or videos or?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. I mean, right now we're practicing these songs because it's been a long time since we've been able to play. Flea and I both went away for a little while, so rehearsing, and then we're going to play some high school shows.
High school shows?
Yeah, we're going to go out just a week before our record, or 2 weeks before our record, and play a handful of high schools. Just for fun.
As the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
As the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And then we have shows. And we just have these weird oddball shows here and there that we're going to start playing. Not a bona fide full scale, this is our tour,
Mm-hmm.
but some festivals,
Right.
some radio shows, some clubs just for the fun of it, some high schools.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So it still has that thing for you then. I mean,
it has it again, and it has it in a new way, and to me, I feel a little bit like I feel before we ever put out a record. The excitement and before you play a show, I didn't used to be able to sleep before we play shows, and all I could do was dream about what the show was going to be like the next day, and I'm starting to get that kind of, it feels like the first time.
Yeah, exactly. It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, it's a nice feeling, and it's true. I mean, it really is. It's a brand new thing, and it would have never happened if all of the things that happened before it hadn't have happened. At the time, they seemed confusing and bewildering and dark and dangerous and distorted and distant, but at this point in time, it all makes sense.
And you
that
really,
we should arrive at this place at this time.
And you really believe? I mean, you really believe that philosophy? I mean,
I have no choice. I mean, it seems pretty obvious to me.
I feel that way very strongly because I've always been proud of who I am, and I've always lived my life the way that I've wanted to live it, and now the momentum that you gain from doing that spiritually is really like on my side. I mean, when we were touring for Blood Sugar, and I hadn't really had the chance to go inside myself as deeply as I wanted to yet. We went on tour, and I didn't feel that I had anything to accomplish. I just felt like everything that I wanted to accomplish were things that would be on the inside. And now that I've gone into myself enough, I see so much where my guitar playing is going, and where the band is going, and what we can do live that'll be fresh and new and different from the album. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool.
My guitar playing is totally different.
Is it?
I love my playing on the album, and like from there now, like
Cool, man. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,